Come in. Well, 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 look who's here. I haven't seen you in many a year. If I knew you were coming, I'd have baked a cake, baked a cake, baked a cake. If I knew you were coming, I'd have baked a cake.
You will not need everything that you see here. I'm showing you different examples of things to use while you're making your flowers. This video is geared towards people who have the cutters and people who don't. Now, I use a sill mat. You're obviously going to need a rolling board. I use a sill mat. These things are expensive. They're worth every penny. I don't need flour, grease, powdered sugar to make things not stick. I don't need any of that. You will also need a foam pad. A lot of people use a sponge. I use old mouse pads, the old ones that are really cushy. They are perfect, a perfect amount of pressure. You'll need your fondant tinted whatever color you want. You need a rolling pin, palette knife, a ball tool, a cheap paintbrush. Don't get a good one. It's for your edible glue that you should already have made up. A stipple pen if you have one. If not, a toothpick. Your powdered sugar or cornstarch all ready to roll. I put mine in a little cheese, actually it's muslin. And then you'll need your flower cutters. And don't worry, if you don't have any of the flower cutters, I'm going to show you how to do it with circles and hearts at the end. Everybody says this is the absolute best rose cutter. Liar, liar, pants on fire. They all work the exact same. So don't worry about that either. You're going to need some flower formers. You can get the one from Wilton. I really like those. But if you don't have one, you probably have some bowls laying around your house that you can use, different sizes, little custard cups, things like that. And if all else fails, make it yourself out of tin foil. You have no excuse not to be able to do this. So there you go. And you can also use these little molds that I actually got out of the painting section at Michael's. And for certain sizes, you can use your mini muffin pan. So let's get started. Now to start, we're going to need our flower cutters, and like I said, if you don't have any, at the end I'm going to show you how to use circles and hearts. I'm going to use the purple ones because those are actually the cheapest, and I want to show you that this can be done. Alright, so we're going to get everything out of our way, and you should already have your fondant conditioned and ready to roll out. I don't need my pad right now. And you want to roll it out thin. It doesn't have to be super thin. Super thin is for competition. I know when you go to classes, they say, oh, you should be able to read paper through it. Yeah, if I wanted to win an international level competition. Just relax. And I'm not saying that you don't ever have to do that. I think it's wonderful people who can, and I think we should all strive to do that. But you know what? You're just learning. Give yourself a break. Don't work with fondant that's going to rip everywhere. You actually don't have to roll this as thin enough to read paper through it. Just roll it out thin. Whatever you're comfortable with, that will be fine. For the purpose of this tutorial, I'm only going to be using the smaller 3. You can use as many as you want. I am going to end up with about 5 layers, but for this tutorial, I'm just cutting out 3. So get them cut out. And then use your palette knife to help remove the excess fondant. You should always kind of help it out along the way. Don't just rip it up, because sometimes you end up pulling your fondant with it. Don't forget to save your fondant, put it back in a bag or underneath a cloth so that it stays soft. Now I'm right-handed, so I'm going to move the fondant out of my way to the left so that it's not in my way. Put my pad where it goes. And we're going to start with the stipple pen. Actually, we're going to start with the ball, and I'm just softening it up. You know how you're supposed to go half on the petal, half on the pad? I rip it every time I do that. So this is how I came up with this technique. And then I just roll right on over it. And hopefully you can see this. Just going to keep on rolling. If you kind of pay attention, I'm only rolling on like the tip, the very tip, maybe 1/4 of an inch of the stipple pen. Don't worry if you don't own the stipple pen. I'm going to show you how to use a toothpick in just a little bit. So keep on going around till you get it nice and soft and frilly like you like. The more you go around, the more soft and frilly you're going to make it. And the only time it's going to rip is if it sticks to your pen, and there you go. So now I'm going to put a little dust in here so it doesn't stick. And I'm going to shove it on down in there, and there we go. There's one of my layers. Okay, we're going to put it in our cup, fill it out the way we want it, make sure the leaves are where we want them to be, and then we're going to do the same thing to the next petal. I sped the film up here because I didn't want to bore you with, 2 minutes of doing that, but just keep going around till you get your edges nice and soft and frilly. Just keep going round and round and round. And now we're ready to put it into our next former. This sleeve's a little bit bigger than the first one, so it's going to go into a larger flower former. And I'm going to lay it in there, make sure everything is where I want it to be, and there you go. We're ready with that one. Now we're going to start our third and last largest petal layer. I'm softening the edges as I normally do, leaving the middle kind of thick. Now this time, instead of the stipple pen, I'm going to show you how to use the toothpick for those of you who need to. And actually, I think it makes a little bit frillier edge. I use the stipple pen because it has a little bit of this wrinkle look that I like, but the toothpick works just as well. A little bit smaller in your hand. You got to kind of watch it, make sure you don't stab your petals. But with time you get used to it. But look at that, it's making real nice little frilly edges just like before. Okay, so I'm going to supersonic speed get this done because you guys already know how to do that. And now we've been all the way around it a couple of times, and I'm ready to put it in the flower former. I don't do the bottom one as frilly as the rest because, the more a flower opens, it loses some of its billowness, the little, you know what I'm trying to say. It's just not as fluffy. So anyway, that's going to be the bottom layer. We're going to let it dry. You want to let all your layers dry at least 8 hours. Overnight is best. Sometimes I make it up and go back to it a couple of days later. You cannot be in a hurry when you do this. So okay, let's all go to sleep. Have a good night's rest while we wait 8 hours. Okay, because I'm going to trust you're not going to jump on this.
If I knew you were coming out to bake the cake, hired a band. Goodness sake, if I knew you were coming out to bake the cake, how'd you do, 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 how'd you do.